And there's Agnes, 17 years old, who is a thoroughbred Arab cross. Wonderful, wonderful horse. My mother bred horses. So I've always liked horses, ride Agnes every day. I tend to get up around 6:30, and the CounterPunch website, Jeffrey, my co-editor, Jeffrey Sinclair, up in Oregon City, he puts the site up on the new material up on about 7:30. So we crack in about 6:30 and discuss, what stories might go up on the site. Probably accumulated them over the previous day, and we talk about what's going on and what people seem to be interested in, what the big events in the world are, and we'll get this. And then Jeffrey gets the site up as somewhere between about 6:30 and 8. So it's a busy time, and I'm an early morning guy anyway. I do columns. I'll do CounterPunch material. I do a column for The Nation, the one I've been doing since 1984. I do that every second Tuesday. Do a syndicated column. Then we're usually working on a couple of books for CounterPunch Press. Those are the birds, which really, the dog, the cat, and the birds actually write everything for me, but we try and keep quiet about that. You want to give dictation here? Want to write the column for me? Come on, sit down. Sit down. Come on. Sit down. Yeah, come here. Sit. Sit. Good boy. Now, your miserable life as a dog. Want to give me the first chapter? I like feelings of life around. Some writers like, no noise. I like animals because they don't criticize. Animals always do that. As soon as you start talking for radio, they drown you out. So anyway, that takes me through the morning. Editing for the CounterPunch books that we're doing. 2 or 3 books, projects, but in the middle of all this, because I like to garden and I have horses and, I'm always running around or building things. And so life kind of lurches forward through the day. This is a rammed earth building, which we call the cider house, which we put up about 3-4 years ago. Rammed earth is a very old technique of ramming earth down. I think, like many writers, actually, I like thinking about things other than writing. And I like to build. This is a square building going into a dome, done by my friend and neighbor Greg Smith. I don't like to write in the evening, but so unless I have to do something for England, and of course, England is 8 hours from here forward, and if you're going to get something onto someone's desk by 8 in the morning, then you can do it until late at night. But that's the shape of my day. It's not particularly monk-like in its writerly seclusion. I spent a lot of time gassing on the telephone to 3 or 4 people, to Alia up in Olympia, Washington, who also does the editing on the books. Our business operations are run right here in Petrolia by Becky Grant and Dava Wheeler. Incredible efficiency, of course. CounterPunch books. We started thinking that we were publishing stuff in the newsletter and the web that we wanted to keep in more permanent form. Our web stuff on the CounterPunch site doesn't go away. It's all around the backside of Mars or somewhere, in the vast sort of black hole of old internet communications. They're probably all ending up in some government archive, and God help the people who have to go through it. But we felt we wanted to put them in hardcovers, and we began with a book called The Politics of Anti-Semitism, because we'd done a whole bunch of articles about, this idea that if you're critical of Israel, then you're an anti-Semite, which is absolute nonsense. And we felt it important to have that. It was a very successful book, actually. And we did it, and we do our books in association with AK Press, who are a bunch of pretty well-organized anarchists down in Oakland. And AK looks after a lot of the bookshop distribution. We also sell the books on our website, or people write in and we just send them out from the office here in Petrolia. It was natural for us to do it. We had a bunch of articles, and then we got in just to books that we like, and again, it's not that expensive if you can sell them and you have a website in which you can advertise them all the time. So we've done 5 or 6 books. The latest one is End Times, which is out this month, actually, which is on the decline of the Fourth Estate, done by myself and Jeffrey Sinclair, my co-editor and co-author in this one. We've got a book, Danny Cassidy's book, How the Irish Invented Slang, which I think will be a very important book. Big event, because it just shows that much of American slang comes straight from Irish, including words you wouldn't believe, like poker and jazz. And Dan has done this book. It's a really whole hidden part of American language and etymology. If you look at H.L. Mencken, he says like 3 words from Irish. You know, in American today, it's complete nonsense. You know, millions and millions of Irish people came to America speaking Irish. The words didn't go away, they just transmuted into American. But Danny is the first person who's really gone through it methodically and shown how, you know, many of the more commonest words in the American language and slang are pretty much straight Irish, Gaelic. So that's that. We've got Saul Landau's book, introduced by Gore Vidal, on basically the politics of the Bush administration. We have not been shy to criticize the Bush administration, as before we weren't shy to criticize the Clinton crowd. You know, we are pretty radical around here. We don't think the Democratic Party is the answer to everything. And so we did a dime's worth of difference before the last election, you know, basically saying there isn't really a dime's worth of difference in many ways between the two parties, which got a lot of Democrats pretty mad. So we occupy a definite site, and I wouldn't want to say niche, because niche always seems to me very small, but I think, you know, we're figure pretty large. And when people say there must be more to life than the Democratic Party, even though we loathe the Republicans, there's CounterPunch saying, come over here and you can learn a lot about life, a lot about the world. That's what we're really all about. I started in journalism listening to the sound of my father get up at 5:30 in the morning on an Underwood 10 typewriter, just like the Underwood 10 typewriter that I've got here, clacking away. And, you know, that was a different era. I mean, I grew up with hot metal type in newspapers. And my dad, who was a writer, great writer, and we're going to publish his memoirs again soon in CounterPunch, Claude. You know, it was one telephone line to the outside world from Southern Ireland in the middle 50s. You know, he'd finish writing his articles, and then he'd jump on his bike and ride 3 miles to the town. In fact, the only time he ever really got mad at me in the whole of my childhood was when I got fed up with him riding into town, and instead of reading me a book in the evening, and I let down the tires on his bicycle. He was furious. He said, "Any other father would beat you, any other father." My father wrote on that for many years. 1930 to almost the day he died, not quite, 1980. I must have typed about, I don't know, 4 or 5 million words on one of those machines, as indeed most journalists and writers of my generation did. The only person I know who still does, I think, is Ralph Nader. Ralph tells me, I told him I had an Underwood 10. He got incredibly excited. He wanted to like cannibalize it for his Underwood 10. I wouldn't do that. I don't know if there are still users it. He might be a holdup. So that was my work habits, and, you know, for writing books and editing and all that. And, you know, I remember I wrote columns in New York until 1984. When I sent an article to England, to the New Statesman I wrote for, I have to get on the subway in Manhattan in the middle of the night and go down to the telex office, riding on the AA train, the D train, all the way down, take the A train, all the way to the south end of Manhattan. And then I moved to Key West for a while, and that's just about in the early 80s, and the fax machine was coming in. Thank God for the fax. And we went fax, and then FedEx. And so it got easier to be a columnist outside New York, actually. And then, of course, you know, I really only went online, you know, it must have been 1998 or 9. I was late to the game, actually. Jeffrey Sinclair, my co-editor, you know, well, it was obvious you had to do it. So what are our work habits now? You know, I thought I put the typewriter away. It was the Underwood 10 or a Selectric IBM. And I thought, I'll have you out in a little bit soon. I haven't got the poor old things out. I feel kind of treacherous about it, actually. And then here I am with a Mac, you know, with a laptop. I'm a hunt and peck guy, you see? 2 to 3 fingers. No rippling arpeggios with all 10 fingers for me. Just hammering away at the keys. People used to laugh at me because I used to wear the imagery wear the characters off the keys here because I hit them hard.